Today in our space, the cheater has returned. My wife left me because of me and came back after 6 years with 2 children, begging for forgiveness. This is not just something happening to me now, but something that happened 6 years ago. My first wife, Lisa, left me because of me and suddenly appeared after 6 years. I am now 41 years old, a married man with a beautiful daughter who is about to turn 1 year old. This story took place when I was in my early 30s, when I was married to my first wife, Lisa. I met Lisa for the first time when I was 29, and she was 23. We met at a party and hit it off immediately. She was just starting her career as a fashion designer, and I, as a new entrepreneur, was getting started. After 5 years in the software industry, my company was not booming as much as I was making millions a month, but as a newcomer, the income was decent enough to live a good life. It's been a long time, so I don't quite remember the exact details, but after dating for a few months, Lisa moved into my apartment where I lived alone. She was a charming woman. Looking back now, I think I fell in love with her mainly because of her personality. She was an extroverted person, very beautiful, and even when I first met her at the party, I noticed her because she was an eye-catching person. Yes, you might think I'm superficial for saying this, but when you're young, 29 is still younger than 41, and you probably don't have that maturity, and you'll pay the price for it later, as I did. We dated for 2 years and then got married in a luxurious wedding. Yes, Lisa wanted a fairy tale wedding. She had a special preference for perfection and had always dreamed of a dream wedding she had been planning since she was a child. I remember this because it was a pit in my pocket, but I didn't realize it at the time. I was too busy trying to be Lisa's perfect boyfriend and husband. The first 2 years went smoothly, and I remember that period without any major arguments. The problem started after our second wedding anniversary when Lisa started to act differently. She joined a fashion master's course, and she was eager to work in Hollywood, or at least when she was in college. She met a group of people in their early 20s who had no work experience. They were young and raw, and that's where Lisa got excited. She started saying that she got married too early, and at first, I just took it as a temporary fear of missing out. I thought she would eventually get over it and understand that there are more valuable things in life beyond partying and hooking up. But instead, she became more involved. She started going to parties late, going on hikes, and staying up all night. Those were my early days of entrepreneurship, and I was more focused on solving my business problems because I thought my personal life was going well. It was an 18-month project, and I thought she would get over it once the course was over, but even after she graduated, she continued that lifestyle. At the same time, my business suffered some major losses, and I was in debt. Instead of supporting me, she mocked my original choices for running the company. She kind of forgot that I had been supporting her expenses all these years, and she was still in the master's course, and even before she worked, her income was negligible compared to mine, so I bore the family responsibilities alone and let her have that money. There was a man from her master's course who got a job as an assistant at one of the top designers in the city, and Lisa was very obsessed with him. She started comparing me to him in terms of early success, decision-making, even sense of humor, and physical fitness. Well, I used to work 12 to 14 hours a day to build my business, and I neglected my health at the time. Although not recommended, I didn't have a carved figure and a sharp jaw, but I wasn't overweight either. I admit that I was too busy and exhausted from work, and she thought it was boring, and eventually she found comfort in that man. He was an intern with a lot of time to spend with Lisa, and he probably had a good sense of humor or something else she needed. One day I came home and found a note on the refrigerator, which said something like this: "Sorry, I can't face you, so I left this note. I don't love you anymore. I'm moving to Los Angeles with Leo, a fair partner. He makes me laugh, makes me happy, and you don't." These are not the exact words, but more or less the same. I was devastated. My world was upside down, but that's the bad thing. It will pass. I started to focus more on my business to overcome my personal sadness, and in fact, it was precisely because of the hard work I put in during that period that my business developed so quickly. Yes, it was a blessing in disguise. 2 years later, I met Sophie at a business conference. We became friends, started dating, and now we are married with a 10-month-old daughter. Life couldn't be better. Sophie is everything Lisa is not. She is kind, compassionate, and more importantly, she is my friend. I had forgotten most of the details I wrote until last week. Yes, something happened last week that brought all these memories back. Lisa appeared, yes, my first wife, who abandoned me because of me, appeared in my office asking for help. At first, I didn't recognize her as the beautiful Lisa I knew. She looked pale and miserable. She had a 3-year-old daughter and a baby who might only be a few months old. If I hadn't recognized her in the waiting area, I might have refused to see her. As soon as she entered my cabin, she broke down. Her daughter was still sitting in the hall outside. She brought her baby son in with her, and she kept saying sorry, crying as if she was in pain. It was emotionally stirring to see her again after 6 long years. The last time I saw her, I loved her, and now I saw her as a stranger. There was no difference between the two. I didn't have the chance to hate her or see her evil side. She said she went home and found the house sold. The house Lisa and I used to live in, I sold it. After I got married, I bought a bigger, better equipped, and better community house with my second wife Sophie. Lisa didn't know I was already married. She said Leo was very mean to her. After she gave birth to her daughter, she suspected he cheated on her, and when she confronted him, he belittled and mocked her for her age and fading beauty. He is 6 years younger than her. She struggled to maintain a decent life, relying on him, so she had to endure his troubles. She said that during her second pregnancy and childbirth, the situation became so bad that Leo didn't even show up at the hospital. She called her a cow and other derogatory terms like fat ant and old man. She felt humiliated to share a roof with him, so she fled from Los Angeles. So basically, she also abandoned him. When Lisa abandoned me, I wished her life was miserable, but when she really told me how miserable her life was, I was not happy. I felt sorry for her. She entered the apology mode, begging me to forgive her. She said karma cursed her because she hurt me. She said she was young and immature and couldn't tell right from wrong. I calmed her down and said I forgave her. I had moved on. She held my face with both hands and cried very sadly. She begged me to take her back and promised to be the best wife. I pulled back my hand and told her I was already married and had a child. I turned over my family photo frame. She grabbed it, looked at it carefully, and started crying. I didn't know how to tell her, so I stood quietly. She stood up and said I was her last hope, but seeing the photo, she looked as if there was no hope. I didn't say anything, and she left. After Lisa left, I immediately called Sophie and told her everything. I couldn't concentrate on work, so I went home early. I was undoubtedly sad. Sophie tried to calm me down. I was not the cause of her trouble, it was caused by herself. I agree, I know Lisa is the cause of her own pain. I thought Lisa would contact me again, but she didn't. I don't know where she is. I know I have moved on. I love Sophia, my daughter, but I can't stop thinking about Lisa and the tragedy she is experiencing. I have been talking about this with Sophie for the past week. I know Sophie is more of a friend than my wife, but I don't want to disturb her by talking about Lisa again and again. She is a safe woman, but she is also a human being. I don't want her to think I still care about Lisa. I have no feelings for Lisa, but she suddenly came out of the sky, and after knowing her miserable life, I was actually disturbed. Her affair after the divorce is not your fault. She made a choice, and she needs to be responsible for her own choices. If she ran away with some young people thinking it would be sunshine and rainbows, that's her problem, not yours. You have moved on and found your happiness. She absurdly thinks you will take her back. She really regrets letting you go. Update 1. It has been more than 5 months since I posted the story about my ex-wife abandoning me without any explanation, then coming back into my life and asking me to take her back. After I told her I have a second wife and daughter, she left and did not contact me again until a few weeks ago when she came to my office again. When my assistant handed me a note saying I had a visitor named Lisa, I was in a meeting. It was an important meeting, but after hearing her name, I could no longer focus on my work. I ended the meeting and went to see her. Lisa looked more miserable than last time. She said she was distressed, knowing that I was already married, so she went back to Leo. She tried again with Leo, but her day was getting worse. She recently found out that he was sleeping with other women in his workplace. When she confronted him about cheating, he admitted to having multiple affairs because Lisa was no longer young and attractive. She said the situation had become so bad that he started hitting her and physically assaulting her. Lisa hoped I could help her financially. She said she was looking for a job but hadn't found one yet. She was 3 months pregnant and out of work. Her experience gap hindered her from finding a decent job. If all this was not enough, she told me that Leo had never married her, he didn't believe in marriage, and manipulated her into accepting the same thing. She started to see the rawness in him that I once called, but now she regrets her decision because he had no right to pay for anything for her. If she separated from him, if they were married, she would get alimony. I asked her how much money she needed, and she didn't speak. I wrote her a check for $30,000. I said this is what I can do for her. She could rent a motel and start her life over. I suggested she take any other job to maintain her lifestyle, not necessarily fashion. She thanked me for the money and left. This time I was reluctant to tell Sophie about meeting Lisa, but after careful consideration, I told her because she found out from other sources. If I went home that day, Sophie saw me nervous and asked if something was bothering me. I told her about Lisa borrowing money from me. This time Sophie's reaction was cold. She didn't say anything about the money, but she warned me that Lisa borrowing money from me should not become a habit. I was not angry with Sophie because I could understand her insecurity. It was natural for her to feel this way. I assured her that I had no feelings for Lisa, I was just helping her because she was in a miserable situation. Sophie was a little depressed, but she recovered quickly. I think it is wrong to take responsibility for someone who is no longer your problem. You have your own life and children to take care of. Update 2. This update is to clarify some mistakes in the comment area. Some people said that I still seem to have feelings for Lisa, and I might take her back or cheat on Sophie with Lisa. No, guys, there is no such thing. Maybe I was just taken aback by Lisa's sudden appearance because I never expected her to appear in that condition, and even the next morning, I was not eager to see her. I just helped her as I would help anyone else. I may have moved on, but I have not forgotten how ruthlessly she mocked me, humiliated me, and finally abandoned me, especially after I did so much for her. It was the worst period of my life. It's not easy to be dumped after 4 years of marriage. So, yes, I will not mess up my good life with Sophie with Lisa. I am very clear about drawing a line with Lisa. This is not a counterattack to anyone, I just want to clarify my position. If there are any developments, we will update this post. You are a bit hypocritical, saying that you realize you need to draw a line with Lisa, but you gave her $30,000. Update 3. Thank you for your comments to keep me awake and check. After I posted the clarification in the last update, I also confronted Sophie. I assured her that I love her to death, and I would never do anything that would break my marriage. I know she is a safe woman, but I don't want her to have any second thoughts about me. I felt very good after she opened her heart. She said she trusts me but is also worried that I might take back Lisa. Sophie is the woman who supported me when I was at my lowest, and she is the mother of my daughter. I will never let her down. A week later, I received a message from Lisa asking me to help her rent a house. I said I was too busy to help with these things. She started sending me messages saying she was lonely and her life had become miserable. So basically, she tried to play the victim. Believe me, I ignored her messages as if it was spam, but she didn't give up and continued to do so. I was surprised to see her start to take an interest in me, sending me romantic emoticons and heart icons. I told her that I felt uncomfortable talking to her and she should stop doing that. She insisted that we should keep in touch as friends. I said I already have Sophie as a friend at home, and I don't need anyone else. She backed off for a few days but sent me some romantic posts and true things again. I warned her that if she continued to send these things, I would block her. I told her that my wife was uncomfortable with me talking to her, and I couldn't make her unhappy. She stopped after that. Last week was my anniversary with Sophie. I arranged something special for Sophie this time. I booked a surprise trip to the Bahamas for her. I recorded her reaction when I revealed the location and posted it on social media. I booked a royal suite by the sea, a candlelight dinner in the woods, a buffet of flower baskets on the water, and all those romantic activities. I am usually not very active on social media, but this time I posted all these photos with romantic captions. Yes, to show Lisa this. I don't care if people call me immature, but I had to do it to keep Lisa restrained. She should know that Sophie and I are very happy. You know, it worked. After seeing those photos, Lisa never texted me again. In fact, she unfollowed me on all social media platforms. I am glad to see her there. I hope she can stop bothering me now. You fell for her again. By doing this, you endangered your marriage with Sophie. Of course, Lisa will manipulate you and try to bleed you dry. Update 4, hello, thank you for all the blessings. Yes, the Bahamas were great. For those who ask about the details of the 3 people, I have shared the itinerary and cost breakdown in another post. The link is here for those interested to refer to. Talking about my current situation, I guess Lisa would take her cue and not bother me again, but I was wrong. Just a few days ago, she showed up at my office again. When my assistant notified me of her arrival, I deliberately let her wait for a few hours because the first 2 times I saw her immediately, thinking I might have given her the wrong signal. I deliberately acted very busy and paid no attention to her words. She was crying again, saying that her life was falling apart, and she couldn't properly support her children, etc. I let her get to the point because I don't have time. Her face turned red, and it was obvious that she didn't like the way I spoke to her. She made a request for money. Sophie was right to warn me that Lisa's request for money should not become a habit. I can feel that it is becoming a habit. In fact, it is not a request, it sounds like a demand. She said she needs at least $100,000 for a house. Even though I make a good salary, a house is still a big deal for me even at $100,000. I told her I couldn't give her any house, let alone that much money. She said she needs at least $60,000 to $70,000 to start her life over, to buy a house and other utilities, and to send her children to school. I don't know if she thinks she has the right to my money. I said I sympathize with her, but that doesn't mean she can ask for anything she wants. I don't owe her anything, right? She is the one who left me for a new lifestyle. I was angry at her request, and I asked her how much money she thinks she has the right to from me, and why I am responsible for arranging her life. I helped her earlier just out of charity, nothing else. She started crying on the charity comments. I am fed up with her drama now. I no longer feel sorry for her, but I paid for the way she rented a house while looking for a job, but she didn't. When she finished crying, she quickly grabbed my hand and asked, "You don't really mean that, right, about charity?" I told her that every word I said was true. For me, it was just charity. She cried and said, "I know you are lying, you still love me." I got rid of her hand and warned her not to touch me again. I said I only love Sophie and my daughter. I released my suppressed anger and gave her a lesson for life. I told her that she was the one who pursued young men and kicked me out of her life. I used to love her very much, but she belittled my feelings and my emotions. When she chose her lover over me, she made a choice, and now she has to live with that choice. She stood up and said she came to see me with hope, seeking help, but I was humiliating her. I said I am fed up with her victim game. I have helped her as much as I can. Now she is trying to take advantage of me, and I can't be that fool to let her step on me every time. I told her she should be grateful to me because I talked to her politely and helped her. If I were anyone else, she would have been kicked out of my office from the first day she entered. Instead of being grateful, she is a homewrecker. She tried to manipulate me and put pressure on my marriage. I am not a fool and see through her intentions. She rushed out of my office. After that, I shouted at her back, "Never let me see her face again." She didn't answer, but she slammed the door of my office when she left. Pain teaches humility, and I think she hasn't learned it yet. Whatever it is for her, for me, I am done with her. I have instructed the reception that if she tries to come in again, she will not receive Lisa. She will be denied entry. I have also blocked her access on all platforms, and she has no way to contact me. I have a wonderful life with Sophie and my daughter, and I will not let my past ruin it. Thank you for providing me with this space to vent. You should have stopped her a long time ago, man. You really let yourself get into a bad situation. I mean, bad enough to make your current wife question you a little. You kind of brought it upon yourself. Lisa has always planned to use you. What do you think of the decision to help Lisa? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for joining us in our space today. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. See you later. In fact, I tried telling you the truth, but you were so happy with the news of the baby that you didn't even notice that I was upset and guilty. The moment was like, wait a minute, what? What truth about the baby would have ruined everything? She kept bawling and choking with her cries, but I grew restless. I lost my patience and yelled at her, asking if our daughter wasn't mine. She nodded and said the baby was Mr. X's. I slumped down on the couch. I felt a gush of emotions of betrayal, emptiness, and crisis. The daughter I raised for 24 years isn't even mine. I'm getting to know this truth in my 60s. I suffered from a mild heart stroke last year. It gives me shivers to think what if I had not survived that attack. I would never have known the truth. I would have died thinking she was my daughter. Mary held my back, cried, apologized, and said all sorts of things like forgiveness and moving on, but I had zoned out. I was lost. I stood up to leave. Mary held me and begged me not to leave. I told her I needed some time to myself to process this trauma. I drove off in my camper for more than 50 miles before parking it sideways and breaking down like a puppy. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I don't know what others would have done in this situation, without sounding mean. I'm not looking for any advice, it may not work in my situation. I'll decide for myself, using this space as a channel to pen down my emotions. Heartbreak at 60 is not easy. Don't even have friends to discuss this, and neither have the health to drink and piss off the pain. Oh boy, that's one hell of a 24-year-old secret. Just when you thought life couldn't get any more complicated, it throws you a curveball that knocks you off your feet and leaves you wondering if you're even playing the same game anymore. Your wife's confession hits you like a ton of bricks, revealing a betrayal so profound it feels like a punch to the gut. But hey, at least she had the decency to wait until you were in your twilight years to drop the bombshell, right? And as for your daughter, well, it turns out the apple fell a little further from the family tree than you thought. It's like finding out your favorite song was actually a cover by a completely different band. Talk about a case of mistaken identity. Update 2, I went back home the next day. Mary was sleeping in the bedroom. I hadn't answered her calls and texts since that day. The condition of the house, the kitchen, gave it an eerie vibe. It looked like she hadn't cooked or eaten anything since the last day. I opened the refrigerator to grab something. Mary was woken up by that. She came and hugged me. She was again crying and apologizing. She swore that it was a one-time thing, and she had never cheated on me again, and she had quit her piano classes after the encounter. She said it wasn't an affair. She didn't love him, nor did she have any feelings for him. It was all about loneliness and needs, which I was unable to fulfill due to my work commitments. I asked her to calm down and sleep. She insisted we talk and resolve the matter. I said not now, you don't look fine, so rest, and we'll sort this out later. I was starving for the last 2 days, so I grabbed some leftover porridge from the refrigerator and ate it. She nibbled some berries reluctantly. I crashed on the couch. She asked me to sleep with her in the bedroom, but I refused to share the bed with her. She sat by me on the couch, but I insisted she rest inside. I was pretending to be asleep and calm, but in real life, I was not. I wanted to get out of her sight. When I sensed that she was in a deep sleep, I slowly crawled into my room, grabbed my basic essentials, clothes, gadgets, important documents, cards, and cash money. I packed some kitchen stuff and bedding, loaded it into my camper, and drove off, planning to live in my camper for the near future. My van wasn't a perfect conducive place. I had to fix a lot of stuff. I went to the garage to get the basics fixed, but they needed 2 days' time. I said don't be bothered and left. I brought the sink pipes and toolbox and fixed the basic amenities. I have set up a makeshift kitchen stand with a microwave, toaster, and air fryer at one corner of the camper. The sink is now up, the exhaust and heater are working fine. I have bought some batteries to cater to the emergency power supply, otherwise, using the charging station to charge everything. I have to use a public restroom to unload the dump and refill the water container. I feel a lot more free in mobile now. I have switched off my number and would be taking a different number for official purposes. Parking at night had been a struggle on the first day. I know some of the residential spaces don't allow campers to be parked near their houses. To be safe, I'm parking at a gas station for the night, not all, but some of them offer parking spaces at a minimal search charge, and some are free. I'm now planning to drive to the south to live by the sea for a few days or a few months, maybe. I don't know, but before that, I would need to stock up on enough supplies. Going south involves driving through thick woods on the way, need to ensure that the camper is robust to sustain the long journey. Well, this definitely doesn't sound like the traditional camper road trip that retirees dream about. Update 3, amidst all this chaos, I almost forgot that yesterday was my daughter's wedding. After knowing the truth, I was struggling to call her my daughter. The dynamics have changed, as mentioned in my last update. I was on my way south, traveling almost 100 miles away from the city when I got an email. I was resting in the afternoon and scrolling through my mailbox. My daughter had left a long, hearty message for me. Mary had confessed the truth to her. The realization hit me hard that I was ruining her wedding. When I read her message, I couldn't stop myself from running to her, ignoring the formatting error, pasting the message directly here. Dear Dad, don't be mad that I called you Dad. No matter what the truth is and what you ought to believe, you'll be my dad, and I love you. You've been an amazing father, the best I could get. Tomorrow is my wedding, a big day for me. I wanted you to walk me down the aisle. Please show up for the sake of the 24 years of love you have showered on me. But even if you decide to disown me, I would respect that and still love you. Your daughter. There was a drugstore in front of me. I rushed in there and requested the cashier to let me make a phone call. I called my daughter. She broke down on hearing my voice. We both cried for a good few minutes. I promised her I would walk her down the aisle. She assured me to keep my visit a secret from Mary. She gave me the exact time she would step out of her room, for I didn't want to have any face-off with her. By then, everyone was seated at their respective places. I walked her down and gave her hand to my husband. When everyone stood up to clap and congratulate the newlyweds, I disappeared. Later in the evening, I got an email from her thanking me for saving her day and basically the repetition of the same stuff she said above. She didn't get into my relationship dynamics with Mary or ask me to reconcile or forgive her. That was mature of her. I didn't tell her where I was heading, but she might have got the hint that I was going somewhere since I was living in the camper. She requested to keep in touch. I went through a wave of emotions in these last few days: heartbreak, betrayal, bitterness, to healing. I'm guilty of admitting that I hated to know that she wasn't my daughter. I pledged to never see her again and even disown her, but when I received her message and when I saw her at the wedding, I felt nothing but a father. I found no difference in my emotions. She might not have my genes, but she is still my daughter. I have raised her with my love and care, and I'm going to be there for her like a dad, irrespective of the truth. Update 4, I know it's been long since I've updated this. Nothing relevant happened. I have been living peacefully by the beaches. I had no updates about Mary until this morning. I literally got goosebumps typing her name after so long. I had never mentioned her to anyone here, though I have ghosted her. It feels like she's a ghost to me. She doesn't exist to me. I knew at the back of my head she would be traumatized by my ghosting, especially when I was leading the life we had decided to live together. We had plans of renting the house and living in a camper by the sea in our retirement phase. Got to know from my daughter today that Mary is sick and hospitalized. She has also been seeking therapy, but it hasn't helped her much. I don't know if I'm angry with her or if I'm upset with myself. I told her that I would have forgiven her if she came clean back then, but I don't think I would have forgiven her even back then. One time or multiple times, cheating is cheating. This is not only cheating but a sheer betrayal. She kept me in the dark about the child. While confessing, she also said that if not for that cheating, she wouldn't have been a mother because after our daughter, we still had unprotected sex, but she didn't conceive. Yes, she questioned my potency. I should admit that she might be right, and I was offended or maybe hurt because of the statement. I didn't have the courage to mention this in my earlier updates. Now I feel I have grown past that feeling. Daughter requested I visit Mary once if possible because her health is deteriorating. I think I'll head out to meet her once, but reconciliations are off the radar. Your daughter's message is a tearjerker for sure, and your covert operation at the wedding, talk about stealth mode. I think it's a good thing that you went back, OP. It's true, you're always going to be her father. No piano is going to change that. As for Mary, well, it sounds like she's in the midst of her own personal crisis, hospitalized and seeking therapy. That's a whole other storyline right there. Maybe she'll have a miraculous epiphany and realize the error of her ways, or maybe she'll just continue to be a thorn in your side. No one would blame you for not going to see her. What do you make of this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for joining us today on our space. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.